Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I am lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Mike from Cal Maritime. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you. So, let's just jump right into it and talk about the recruiting side of things. Um, how many inbound contacts would you say you get in a given week, and what year of students are they usually from?
Yeah, in a non-COVID year, I would probably
Yeah.
expect to get maybe 10 to 15 emails. This year has been crazy. I think, with the eligibility issues that's happening in NCAA and NAIA, I'm averaging probably 50 emails
Wow.
every single week. This
Yeah.
recruiting year has been crazy.
Yeah, I've kind of heard the same thing across all programs I'm talking to. That's just throwing a wrench in it, and less spots but more people kind of thing. So, um, well, what are some of the things you like to see in that first communication from a potential recruit?
Yeah, so if someone is reaching out to me, I really want it to be personalized. I think there's no bigger turnoff than somebody give me a form letter that they send to everybody and their brother, right? I mean, if you take the time to learn about me and my program and the players that I have on my team and my roster and my schedule, then I'll put the time in to spend to get to know you. I mean, I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, where do you tend to spend a majority of your time recruiting? What tournaments do you like to go to? Where are you finding players mostly?
Yeah, so there are really where I live. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? So obviously, the first location that we go to is the Davis Showcases, right? So that's NorCal is our youth sports organization up here, and that's the focal point for the top clubs in Northern California is the Davis Showcases. But I also see a tremendous amount of value in Surf Cup in San Diego, and I spent time at Surf Cup, and then this last weekend I was in Las Vegas at the Player Showcase, which is a pretty great event for recruiting as well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying they were stuff I've had in the past. If people said they were going to go to that one, so that's good to hear. Well, what about camps? How do camps fit into your recruiting? Do you do ID camps on campus? Are you working other schools' camps to try to help see
Yeah,
people? Or
I do. We do. We like to do our own ID camps, and COVID has kind of thrown monkey wrench into this as well. But we like to do our own camps, not for fundraising, but for actually recruiting. I mean, I like to. If you're willing to put the time into my camp, I'm going to put the time into giving you a fair shake and in the recruiting process. But I also do some other ID camps. I think that's a great opportunity for me to recruit because that's the reason I'm there, right? It's not to make a few bucks,
yeah,
right?
that's good. So when you're at either camps or at any of these showcases, what's your kind of checklist, your hierarchy of what are you looking for in a player, whether that's on the field or off the field?
I'm really looking for a complete player. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of athletes do is they focus on their strengths instead of their entire game. Like if you're a defender, I expect to see defensive plays, but I also want to see what you can do combining in the attack. And the same thing is true if you're an attacker. Right? I mean, if you're a forward and you send me a video and all it has is of you scoring goals, that doesn't show me how you play off the ball. It doesn't show me how you support your teammates in passing and being a target. It also doesn't show me what kind of a defender you are, because that's what I'm looking for as a complete player.
Yeah. Now you are NAIA school, so a lot of men's NAIA programs tend to have a large international flavor to them. However, just looking at your roster, you got to have maybe one or two. But how does international recruiting kind of fit into your overall scheme?
Because I am a state school, it really doesn't. And that's a real shame because I don't have a lot of money to support these foreign players. I actually, excuse me, I just actually had a call with a Swedish player, and he's really interested in coming to play for me. But the biggest obstacle he has, obviously, is generating the funding to come and study in the United States. So, and some of our opponents that do have a large number of foreign players, they obviously have the money to recruit those players. And I think that's one of the biggest difference between our programs. But I think that's something that you see across all schools. If you have the funds to be able to attract that kind of talent, you do. And it's funny that you mentioned the international flavor. I don't know if you had a chance to see the NAIA top 3 teams. There are no Americans on those teams. It's kind of sad when you hear all American and it's all foreign players.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that it's sad. I think it speaks to us as a conference in that we're starting to attract a lot of talented players in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in terms, you mentioned, international players, trying to put the funding together. Well, let's talk just funding in general. So obviously you have athletic money to give, but how does the combination of academic and athletic money work specifically at your school?
Yeah, because we are a state school, tuition is really affordable. I mean, you can attend Cal Maritime if you're in-state tuition for under $9,000 a year. That's total tuition, right? And then you have your living expenses. So someone can expect to spend 20 to 25,000 and you cover everything, including room and board and education, uniforms, and everything else that goes along with it, which is great. I mean, if you're an in-state student. We also have the Western Undergraduate Exchange, which is an option that's available if you live in one of the Western states, right? So South Dakota, North Dakota, all the way to California, any of those states have reduced tuition rates available through that program. And we participate in that program. So you can expect to pay maybe $3,000 or $4,000 more than what an in-state student would pay, which is still very affordable in the scheme of things per year. Right. So we have mechanisms of attracting scholarships is not one of them, but I do give scholarships, but I focus on giving my scholarships to my returning players. I think that a player that has come on campus demonstrated to me that he can not only perform on the team, but he also has the acumen to complete his education requirements, keep his grades up, and also do his volunteering work that we expect from all our student athletes in the local community. I mean, that's the complete athlete that I'm looking for. And what I do is, and I think might be one of the few people that does this, is I take all my money and I divide it equally amongst all the people that I qualify for scholarships, right? So they have an incentive to be part of that.
Oh, okay, that's great. Well, let's talk more about the school, because your school is definitely unique amongst a lot of schools that I've talked to, and want to kind of get that across to players that might be interested. So, I clicked around the website and you learn a lot real quick, but kind of give me the non-website information I need to know about your school.
Yeah, absolutely. I love selling Cal Maritime. So Cal Maritime is part of the Cal State University system. There are 23 schools, and what makes our school unique is that we're the #1 school in the entire system. You don't realize that when you take a look at how small our school is. We have 7 majors, but we're #1 for employment after graduation. 98% of our students have jobs, career entry positions in their career fields within 3 months of graduation. And there's not a lot of schools that can brag about that. We used to be really proud that we could say our average starting salary of our graduates was right between Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford. We actually this year were the #1 school in the entire Western states. Our average starting salary is way over $80,000 a year. So our graduates have jobs and they have great starting salaries. The other thing that really makes us unique is that every student will do at least 1 year of an international experience. And that international experience is going to happen one of 2 ways. Either you're going to go with a cohort of your classmates to a foreign country, and it could be France, it could be South Africa, it could be Vietnam, it could be Japan, or you're going to take a ride on our training ship to get your Coast Guard licensing hours, which is a requirement for getting licensed, right? And what's really unique about that cruise, our students, they navigate, they pilot, they crew, they engineer the entire ship themselves. And we're not talking about a cruise out to the bay and come back in. We're talking the last long cruise that they had. They left Vallejo, they went to the Panama Canal, they went to Barbados, Lisbon, Portugal, Punta Delgado in the Azores, Fort Lauderdale, and Galveston, Texas in 60 days. And they had a phenomenal experience. This year, they're going to Mexico, Mexico, Hawaii, and Washington. And that'll be their cruise for this year. So there's opportunities not only learning here in the United States, but also going overseas and experiencing culture and the job, especially in maritime and other places. We do wear uniforms, but it's not a military academy. But if you're looking for a military type career at the end, it's a great starting point, because we've had many of our players and students that have gone on to military careers. I love bragging about one of my captains from a couple of years ago. He graduated, never had any ideas about getting into the military. I helped him with a letter of recommendation, and this last year he reached out to me and told me that he got a commission in the U.S. Navy, and he's now learning how to fly fighter jets. So I'm pretty proud of him. That was something he did out of the blue with that, with that education. Maritime is really unique too, in that it was originally started by companies that work in the maritime industry, and then the state of California came in and bought it which is kind of cool because now we have state monies coming into the program. But the thing that was really cool is that a lot of our graduates went to work for these companies that started this program. So it's like the hiring managers and the people in charge are graduates of our school. So they know the value of our graduates. And it's like there's direct connection. We're also real big on internships. So our school will go from September to May. And then between May and we come back on campus is an opportunity for you to do an internship. And almost all students do internships of some type. And a lot of times these internships turned into the career opportunities that they're offered when they graduate. And that's, I mean, work experience, the opportunity to learn. We're also a polytech, so everything is hands-on. There's a tons of hands-on experience. Our engineering programs, our students, they learn how to weld, they learn metal fabrication, they learn machine tool, they learn CAD. And they're really well versed in everything that has to do with engineering and the trades that go along with it.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, with all that going on, how is it that your athletes balance sports and studies and all of those things that you just talked about? What support systems are there to help them as well?
Yeah, so the education includes any tutoring that they need. If they need any kind of help with any of their classes, it's available as part of their educational cost. There's no additional fees for that. And that's a resource that's available to everybody, and we encourage everyone to take advantage of that. I spend time with all my players following up on their education and making sure that they're putting that front. I allow students to miss practices if they have tests, labs, they need to catch up on homework. I'm fine with that. I mean, they're there for an education. Soccer is great, but I don't make it their primary responsibility. And then the other things that come into play too is, one of the things I learned a long time ago, and we see this, is some of our very, very best students in the school are athletes. And a lot of them has to do with when they were club players. I mean, I asked these, parents will ask, well, how can they balance education and it's like, well, how do they do it when they were in high school? A lot of these kids played high-level soccer. There was 3, 4 to 5 training days a week, plus their tournaments and ID camps and showcases. How did they do it? Well, they balanced their time. Well, the same thing is true at Cal Maritime. I mean, if you come in and you already have that discipline, you're able to do time management, you're going to be really successful. On the flip side, if you don't, you have a tendency to procrastinate, you're not going to be successful.
Well, and let's talk about that time. So what does a typical week look like in season, from waking up to school to practice to games to going to bed? What does it all look like in a rough average week?
Yeah, so we have a number of opportunities for taking classes throughout the day. So classes will start early in the morning and they'll go to late at night. And then, most of my players, if not all my players, try to make their athletic time available during our athletic windows, which is a couple hours in the afternoon. Well, you normally practice from 5 to 7. We'll practice 4 days a week, and then in season, we're playing 2 games a week. And I always give them a day off between games for recovery. And I encourage them to use our sports medicine department, and they'll take ice baths and do, therapies that are available to them in our sports medicine department. So, and then I have them for 13 weeks in the fall, right? So it's real fast. It's really intense in the training and the gameplay. When we travel, we have a tendency starting this year to fly as opposed to take buses. So we're trying to minimize the amount of time they are off campus. I make them responsible for making sure that they're tracking their education. So they're communicating with their professors about when they're going to be on the road. And I'll proctor exams. If that's something that falls on a game day, we can work that out. We'll take the test in the hotel room. But it's usually not a problem. 40% of our students are athletes. So, and I think you start seeing that a lot in smaller schools.
Yeah, definitely a higher percentage of athletes. Well, let's talk about the team and the soccer side of things for a bit. So, how many players do you typically like to carry? What's your ideal roster size?
I'd love to carry 24, and that's usually what I strive for. I'd love to carry more if I had the money. I don't. So I'm trying to keep a roster of 24. I think that's a good number to keep because I can pretty much get everyone into the game sometime throughout the season, right? Which is important because I want them to have participation time. What else can I tell you about that? Yeah, when I picked up the program, I had primarily walk-ons. So recruiting has been a really big part of my program development here in the last couple of years. This year is going to be a phenomenal recruiting year. I've already got 7 commits, and I'm expecting maybe to have 12 to 14, and a lot of quality players coming into my program. So I have talented players. I think I'm going to have talented players now and a talented bench, which is going to help us develop this program.
So in terms of that bench, who else is next to you on it? You know, how big is your staff, soccer staff? What role does everybody play? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I came on board Cal Maritime about 5 years ago as a women's assistant coach with Emily C. She's the women's head coach, and she gave me a chance to be her assistant. When I picked up the men's program, she's my assistant, I'm her assistant, so we're helping each other. We travel together. I also have another assistant that's a local high school coach, and his name is PJ, and he helps me when he can. I'd love to have a couple more assistant coaches. The only issue is they're volunteer positions, right? So I don't have budget for assistant coaches.
Yeah, no. When I was coaching D2, that's how I was. I was the women's assistant, and the women's head was my assistant, and we just had to do it all together because that's the way it was.
Especially during COVID, because you never know when someone's going to get sick, right? So
yeah,
it's nice having that other coach on the road with you.
For sure. Well, so how would you describe, your style of coaching, your team style of play, kind of the culture of the team?
Yeah, I don't know if you can guess from my last name, but I'm Portuguese, right? So I have a little bit of that Portuguese influence on my style of soccer. I'm not real big on traditional U.S. styles of soccer. Possession's important, but that's not the focus of my program. I'm real big on some of the initiatives that U.S. soccer had a few years back. So I really like the poaching and dueling styles of soccer play. High press, trying to turn the ball over, and that attacking third generate scoring opportunities for my attackers by playing defense. And that's where the complete game comes in. I'm also real big on dueling, right? So when we train the way we play. I'm not going to do a lot of exercises where it's 4v3 or 5v4. I always make sure that I have an equal number of defenders, if not more, than they'll have the attackers, so that they can actually, emulate in training what they're going to see in a game. And I encourage my players not to be afraid to take on more than one defender. So I think that develops our gameplay. I like to attack the corners. I like getting my defenders into the attack. So combining in the middle third is real big. And then finishing strong. I like to use pattern play. We spend a lot of time working on patterns. Set pieces are real big to me too. I've had some really good teachers throughout the years and teaching me how to do some set pieces, and some of them are really creative. And then, just keep developing my game. System-wise, I can play any system. I like playing a 4-3-3. I can play a 4-2-3-1. I'm okay with playing a 3-5-2. So, I think it depends on the talent that I have, how I'm going to build my system. But I'm open to, that's one of the things I think that's great about this game is there's no real one way to do it. Anybody with a vision can develop a program.
Yeah, no, I like the adaptability is always crucial. Especially in college when your players are changing every year. So
you never know what you're going to get, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we're talking here in the spring. What's your off-season program typically look like?
Yeah, so I get them 10 weeks. I don't put a lot of emphasis on them having to participate in the spring because, school's tough. They have a lot of things they have to do. So I asked them to put off what they would do in the fall to the spring so that so it doesn't conflict some of their lab classes and those kinds of things. But most of my players spend at least 1 or 2 days training with us. We have 2 formal days that we train, like we'll train Wednesday and Thursdays as our formal training days. And then on Fridays, we have something we developed called Friday Night Lights. It's open to the entire campus. And it's basically just come and we'll play pickup. And we combine men and women, and everybody has a blast. And I get out there, throw my referee shirt on, and we just have fun. Right? It's a great opportunity for bringing recruits on campus so they can actually play with the team and they can measure their skills against our collegiate players. But one of the things I think that's really great is the amount of talent we have on campus that doesn't even play collegiate sports, right? They just get out there. We have a great rugby team. So some of these rugby guys get out there, they may not have the skills, but they're athletes, right? So they're strong and fast and they can do a lot of things that sometimes you have to take a double look. Do that.
That sounds like fun. I'll have to.
And that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I learned a long time ago is people will keep coming back if you keep it fun, right? If it becomes work, then it's work, right?
Yep, absolutely. Well, Coach, we talked about a lot of different things, covered a lot of ground, but my last question is just a catch-all. What didn't we talk about? What else would you like people to know, or something you want to reiterate, or anything else? Kind of your last ditch effort to give us any nugget you want to share.
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that, Cal Maritime is a jewel. I mean, a lot of people don't right by, didn't realize it's there. Right, it's right on the other, it's on the right side of the Carquinez Bridge coming in from Sacramento. It's a great location. We're 23 miles from San Francisco, 17th. There's tons to do off the campus. If you want to work part-time, you don't have to work on campus. There are tons of employment opportunities around campus. But it's a great place to study, and it's a phenomenal family. And that's one of the things I want to stress is that, we're a great family.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck with this recruiting class and your season in the fall. And if I get up to the San Fran area, I'll have to come stop by and see what you guys got going on up there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.